So these are some players and the centuries and 50s. So if there are any cricket enthusiasts there, this is all cooked up data. So don't get too emotional about this. All cooked up, right? So I know there's a lot of things wrong here. So just some numbers, just to do learn some logical functions here. So people get very upset when I say, when I say that these guys have only 14 centuries, and what did I write? Sachin has 18, right? So way off the mark. So just some data, nothing else. Now, what I want to do is, let's say I want to look at the condition where um, I've got to check which players have scored more than 20 centuries and 50 50s, right? Let's say I want to find that out. So this is what I want to find out: century, 20, and 50 50. Okay, so there are two things which I want to do now. First, players who have scored 20 centuries and 50 half centuries, right? So 20 fifth centuries and 50 half centuries, and players who have scored either 20 centuries or 50 half centuries. Okay, so first one is and, second one is or. So in layperson terms, I'm talking about both condition, either condition, right? So that's what I'm looking at. Well, Excel has logical functions, again very useful functions. So most widely used logical functions are and or, right? And or. Excel also has not and XOR, right? Which is not very commonly used. But if you're aware of what is not, as I guess most of you are, you have done Boolean algebra, then you know what is not and what is XOR. So if you have to use this sometime, you can do it easily. But today, at this point, let's focus on these two functions, and or. Right. So how do we use these two functions? So here it is, and. I write and what does the syntax say? It says logical 1 and logical 2, which means Excel is looking for whatever you write as the first parameter should evaluate to logical. Now, what is this logical? Logical means either true or false, right? When you say logical, it means true or false, right? So, and is telling me that whatever you write as the first parameter should evaluate to either true or false. So let me write it. So I'll say, look, and number of centuries of this player, B3, is greater than equal to 20. So I'm not typing 20 now. I'm not typing 20. I'm taking it from a cell. I'm taking the input from a cell G1. Okay. Now, B3 greater than equal to G1. So it means 15 greater than equal to 20. So this will evaluate to false. This will evaluate to false. So this is a condition. This is a condition which is not satisfied. Right? So this condition evaluates to false, which is logical. So this works. Okay? Great. Then the second one, and I'll say, look, this greater than equal to I1. Now the AND at the beginning means both must be satisfied. Both must be satisfied. So the first parameter, B3 greater than or equal to G1, returns false. So that's a false. The second one returns a true. Okay. So this one is false, the second one is true. The AND of that is false. Okay. So that's how AND works. Now when I say either, I write OR. And the same thing. So I'll write B3 greater than or equal to G1, comma, C3 greater than or equal to I1. Correct? And this time it is true because one of these logical parameters is true. The other one is false, of course. But if one is true, that's good enough. And therefore I return, or therefore I get true. Clear, right? I'm sure it's clear. It should not be a problem, right? Well, now I want to do it for all of them, of course. But as soon as I drag and drop, correct, I have a problem. What is that problem? Let's go to this cell and figure out.
Reference cell.
Correct, right. So as I drag and drop, B3 becomes B4, which is fine, that's what I want. But the problem is that G1 also changes to G2. Okay. C3 becomes C4, which is great, but I1 becomes I2. That's not what I want. So I will have to do something so that G1 remains G1, I1 remains I1. And that's where dollar signs or dollar symbols come in. So let's take a quick detour and understand what is this dollar sign. You may simply watch what I'm doing, or you may do it the same thing with me. It's a very, very simple thing. If you just watch me doing this, you'll be fine. So let's say I have some numbers, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, so on, right? And here I have 11 and 10 and 9 and 8 and 7, so on. Okay. So here I have some numbers. Now I go here, hold on just a second. Yeah, this would be fine, yes. So I go here and I type equals I5. I drag it down. The numbers change. I drag sideways. The numbers change. Okay. Why? You know why? Simply because if I do a control left tick, you'll see this, right? I5 becomes I6 and I7 and I8 and so on and so forth. I5 as you drag sideways becomes J5 and K5 and L5 and so on, right? Now, let's say I don't want I5 to change as I drag downwards. Correct? So what do? Well, what I do is I put a dollar sign before 5, which is my way of saying, please lock row 5. Do not change row 5. The dollar sign tells Excel that. And now I can drag as much as I want. And you can see it remains at 12 because it is 5. The 5 is locked. However, you drag sideways, it still changes. Okay. So if you have to ensure that sideways drag doesn't change your value of the cell, and put a dollar before I. Now if you drag it sideways, it doesn't change because I have put the dollar, it says lock I, don't change I. Okay. Now if you want to, or if you end up locking both I and 5 by putting a dollar sign before both, then you can drag sideways, drag downwards and sideways and do whatever you want. It will be at I5 because I have locked. Okay, I think most of you already knew it, but there's no harm in repeating this. If there's anyone who did not, I hope it's clear. All right, so let's go back to this and fix this problem. So when okay, there's one thing I didn't say. And the thing is, when you're locking the cells, locking the rows and the columns, you really do not have to type $, right? You can simply press function key F4, right? And it does it for you. So first press both locked, second press row locked, third press column locked, fourth you're back to unlocked state. Okay, so simply use F4 and it's good enough. You don't really have to type $. Great. So now when I go here, now what I want to do is I want to lock G1, right? So now I'm going to select this, press F4, locks both. Fine, I can do with this. But what I really want is just locking the row, right? Because I'm going to drag downwards. So I can actually simply say G1, $1, and do the same thing for I1. So 2 presses of F4 and done. Okay. So now if I drag and drop, excuse me, please. If I drag and drop, you're going to get the correct stuff. Okay. Similarly for OR, I've locked both this time, but no harm, because I'm just dragging downwards, so no issue if I lock both. So either everything is true because the conditions are such that it works, right? Unless of course you change this to 12, right? And poor Murli is the only false, right? Everyone else is true. Okay, good. So now it's 8:10.